Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Unscripted. I got a big smile on my face because I got to watch some playoff football yesterday. Some of you are happy, some of you are not. I'm checking my microphone to see if this bad boy is on because yesterday I had two episodes, or day before yesterday I had two episodes. Didn't turn my mic on, so let me check and see, make sure this bad boy is on. I got to watch playoff football yesterday, and Dan Campbell is in the news this morning, and everyone's going crazy over it, saying he should have called this, he should have called that. But if you look at the man's character, what got him to the dance was the fourth down call that he had. So he called, he went for it on fourth down, but he had done that the whole entire season. That's what his character was. And then people got mad at his character, but it won him these things. Maybe it lost him in the moment, but it brought him to the dance for the first time, and especially with the Detroit Lions. They hadn't been there in forever. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to the Detroit Lions. We are doing Unscripted. It's Proverbs 29, and the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. We're doing 3,000-year-old wisdom that is applicable today in your business, in your leadership, in your culture, in your systems. Today's episode is going to deal with righteousness, wisdom, integrity, discipline, and hope. And it's just the advantages of wisdom. I was thinking about it, and I was saying, like, in my head, should I name it something different? Should I call it the mishaps of being a bonehead, or make it, a hot topic? Because wisdom, I want wisdom to be cool. Wisdom is something that is the right use of knowledge. And when we have the right use of knowledge, there's tons and tons of advantages. We're going to break it down today. Again, righteousness, wisdom, integrity, discipline, and hope. And imagine if we just had that in our relationships and our business. This study that I'm doing is not preaching at all. It's me studying it and sharing it. So I'm getting hit in the face with these kind of things. So I want to invite you to grab a pen, a paper, and thank you so much for subscribing, for putting on your notifications, for checking out the merch, for joining the community, which you can, the link in my bio, or the link in the bio. You could join the community. But thank you again for rocking with us on the podcast. Let's get this party started.
Cause we believin', it's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted, Proverbs 29, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And again, I want to invite you where this is not about me preaching to you. It's about me going through a study. This is what I've been doing for the last 30 years, the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. There has been days when I didn't do it, but it's been imparting wisdom. I've been able to build businesses on it. I've built my relationships around it. And there's a lot of times where I resist it. And when I resist it, then I look back the next day and it's unbelievable. Now, a lot of people would ask, like, is this going to become redundant? But what I tell you is your circumstances are always going to be different on the day. The day of the week is going to be different. And the challenges that you're going to have in your life are different. And when you read the word, even if it's the exact same one, the corresponding proverb, corresponding day, 31 proverbs in the book of Proverbs, 31 days in the month for the most part. When you do, your circumstances are going to be different. It's going to read different. First, you're going to read it, then it's going to read you. So let's jump right in. So Proverbs 29, righteousness, wisdom, integrity, discipline, and hope. The advantages of wisdom. And point number one, it jumps right in verse number 1. It says, whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. And I was like, man, God, you're going at it right quick. And what I want to caution you to is, a lot of time, my wife and I were talking about this and we were laughing. We were saying, like, when when we pray for patience, God doesn't just give us patience. He gives us the opportunity to practice patience. So when we pray for patience, sometimes we have to be on hold for 15, 20 minutes. I was talking about it yesterday with the telemarketer or with a person from AT&T or DirecTV, and it tests our patience, gives us opportunity to be able to work that patience. So be careful on this, but listen to wisdom. Number one, let me read it again. Whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. So just listen to God, listen to wisdom. If we respect God and we have fear of God, he'll bring us wisdom. In point number 2, it says to thrive and rejoice. When the people thrive and rejoice, right? And so it's in verse 2, it says, when the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. Do you want to have thriving relationships? Do you want to have rejoicing in your life? I do. Listen to wisdom. And so when we listen to wisdom, that's an advantage of having wisdom in your life. And wisdom is the right use of knowledge. Here we go. Point number 3. And this has quite a few verses to it. Bringing joy to your Father. And so in point number 3, it's verse number 3. And to start off in this proverb, it really just breaks things down right away. Listen to wisdom. Do you want to thrive and rejoice? And then listen to your father. A man who loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth. And what I think about is when it says prostitutes, yes, we could look at it as just that literal term, but a prostitute is anyone who's doing anything to be able to get advantage or doing the thing just to get the advantage. And imagine that. When I said this to hairdressers years ago, I said, if you're doing things simply for the money, but not to service people and take care of people at the highest level, but you don't really truly believe in it, then you're prostituting yourself. And so in this one, it's wild because in verse 3, 17, 20, and 21, let's go to verse 20 here. So in verse 20, it says, do you see someone who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for them. So bring joy to your parents, bring joy to your family, bring joy to your father and the one that created you. Bring joy there by seeking wisdom. Point number 4 is integrity. And that goes in verse number 4. By justice, a king gives a country stability, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. By justice, a king gives a country stability, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. Guys, you could read so much into that. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but you can imagine where that's at. Verse number 10, it says, the bloodthirsty hate a person of integrity and seek to kill the upright. Guys, the advantages of wisdom is not always going to be you're going to get exactly what you want all the time. It just means long term, you're going to be able to rest easy at night because you know that you're doing the right thing. So here we go. In point number 5, generosity. And this one, I always refer back to a guy named Gary Spellman. Gary Spellman's probably one of the most generous people that I've ever met in my entire life, but I've also got Will Simmons. I got my brother, Rob. I've got Greg Reed. I've got James Dixon. All these people who are absolutely generous, and they're not looking out for themselves. They're making sure that everyone else is taken care of before they eat. And that in a company, in a relationship, imagine what that could do. So generosity, in verse number 7, it says, the righteous care about the justice of the poor, but the wicked have no such concern. And in verse 14, it says, if a king judges the poor with fairness, his throne will be established forever. Imagine that. Imagine doing the right thing, being generous. That's an advantage of wisdom. So point number 6 is peace and calm. How many of us want this? I was just on a podcast, The Giants and the Smalls, yesterday, and they were saying, like, so many people are seeking after peace, 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 peace. And it is like when you're peaceful, it doesn't mean that your circumstances are amazing. It just means that you've become okay with the circumstances because you know that it's God's will, it's God's plan, and it's God's time. And I want to encourage every one of you out there that's in a storm. And I tell you, my wife and I, we've just been laughing. We've been saying, like, all the little sayings throughout your life. Oh, with the storm brings the rain, and the rain, waters the crops. Well, there's been a lot of rain in our life lately, and we looked at each other laughing, saying there is going to be a huge harvest coming at some point. We believe in that. So look at this in Peace and Calm in verse 8. It says, mockers stir up a city, but the wise turn away anger. And then in verse 9, it says, if a wise person goes to court with the fool rages and scoffs, and there is no peace. In verse number 11, it says, fools give full vent to their rage, and the wise bring calm in the end. There's also verse 22. Let's go into that one. An angry person stirs up conflict, and a hot-tempered person commits many sins. A hot-tempered person commits many sins. I've got to hear this because I get hot-tempered when I get on the phone, and I lose my cool when I get on the phone with DirecTV, AT&T, T-Mobile, these people who, in my head, they don't give any care about who I am, but you know what? I have to have the empathy for what they're going through too. So number 7 brings me right to it is humility. Humility in verse 13. It says, the poor and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives sight to the eyes of both. Wow. I read this morning and I was like, because I would like to think like, hey, I'm doing right, you're doing wrong. But God gives sight to both of us. So I better stay humble because I might be on the other side. If you're not generous to the poor, at some point you might be poor and need someone to be generous to you. So just be conscious of it. Stay humble because God gives sight to both of us. In point number 8, it's hope. And this one is massive. Now, I wrote a book called The Vibe. If you want to check it out, it's a link in the bio. The Vibe, it has it's the secret ingredient that changes everything, right? Or the missing ingredient that changes everything. And it has 5 major components: culture, process and procedure or systems, productivity, innovation, and the ability to adapt immediately, all wrapped in the Vibe. And that will help your company to jump to a whole different realm. That's exactly what we work with in the community that you could join, the little link in the bio. So check that out. So in this, I built a whole entire company based off of point number 8, which is hope. And it's in verse 18. And I encourage you on this. Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint, but blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction. Let me read it again. Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint, but blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction. Where do we get wisdom? From the fear of God. What is wisdom? It is the right use of knowledge. And then when we gain knowledge and we have wisdom, then we can use the knowledge, and that knowledge will give us understanding. That understanding will give us insight. That insight will give us discretion. That discretion will give us discipline. That discipline will give us strength, and that strength will lead us back to the fear of God and give us more wisdom. Protect hope at all costs. Protect hope, because when we protect hope, listen to it again. Let's read it again. It says, where there is no revelation, that means that the leaders aren't leading. People cast off restraint, meaning that there's no hope. If you break hope in a culture, in a company, it is very, very hard to bring it back and to be able to make sure that it's there. So what I said in my book, it's a quote, and I took it right out of 3,000-year-old wisdom. People said, oh, nice quote. I took it from Proverbs. But watch this, guys, is rules without relationship cause rebellion. And that comes right from here. So point number 9 is people won't hear what you say. They won't see what you do. They'll only hear where they are at. The only thing that you'll hear today is where you're at, not where I'm at, not what I say, not that I jump up and down or I have a lot of energy or I have a little bit less energy. You'll hear exactly where you're at. If you're struggling in your marriage, and I may name something that could be applicable to your marriage, you'll listen to that. That's what you'll hear. I learned this from my wife. She is very wise, because I got so upset because I said, well, people aren't hearing what I'm saying. And she said, come on, dummy. They won't see what you do. They won't hear what you say. They'll only hear where they're at. And until you take the time to understand where they are at, you're not going to be able to speak to them. Relationships, business, leadership, culture, systems. Does it apply? I believe it does. Point number 10, as we finish up today, watch this. Fear and respect God, or listen to God. So we end where we started. If we simply will listen to God, he'll give us wisdom. And the advantages of wisdom is first to get wisdom, to listen to wisdom. Because the advantage of wisdom, the number one, is to listen to wisdom, because if we listen to wisdom, then we'll get all the rest of the advantages. And check this out. Seek an audience of one. You see, in this one here, it is in verse 25 and 26. It's probably my favorite verses of this proverb. In 25 and 26, it says, "Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord will be kept safe. Many seek the audience of with a ruler, but it is from the Lord that one gets justice." Watch this. I struggle with this a lot because I had a guy, Pastor Chandler, came to me. He said, "Seek an audience of one." What's an audience of one? It's God being in the audience. And he said, you know what? You could go on social media, you could go on YouTube, you could go on all these platforms and seek out all these people to watch all these things. But the only person that really matters is that you're pleasing God and exactly what you're supposed to be doing on that day. Seek an audience of one. But what about going viral? But what about this person? But what about that person? Imagine if you did exactly what God had you to do. Guess who's the greatest PR agent in the entire world? You guessed it. He knows everybody. God put it on my heart to congratulate a young lady that I worked with quite a few years ago. The other day I sent out a message, 3-4 days goes by, no response from her. Then I get a call. She says, "Well, why did you reach out to me and congratulate me?" And I said, "Just because I'm in your corner, I'm your fan." Her name is Tara. Tara, you know exactly who you are. She called me and she said, "Oh, wow, I just got off stage. I showed a picture of you. And I was talking about your and I's relationship early on in my career. This is so crazy. I've got a convention in November. I've been dreaming of having you come and speak for it." Guys, God is your greatest PR agent. And when we're seeking an audience of one, I can tell you this, so many things will turn out. As we finish here, when we listen to his voice, nothing can stand against it. His will, his plan, and his timing. Proverbs 29 is so rich with all the advantages of wisdom. And I tell you, if you read it the 29th of February, you're going to get a completely different thing because your circumstances are going to be different. I'm going to get something different. I have had such a great time today, and I want to thank every single one of you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, you notify yourself, you check out the merch, you check out the community, grab the book, The Vibe. I love all of you. This has been another episode of Unscripted, Proverbs 29, the corresponding proverb, corresponding day, 3,000-year-old wisdom that's applicable today. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.